Well, hello once again. Welcome to another edition of Today's History Upper Ohio Valley. I'm Bob Connors, your host, and we have a great program for you and a great guest, County Commissioner of Belmont County, Jerry Echemann. Jerry, welcome.
Bob, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Good to have you here. We're going to have a nice discussion, I'm sure.
Sure.
I wanted to point out to you what we're going to do. Instead of the typical questions that people ask, we're just going to get to know Jerry a bit.
Okay.
Because people need to know who you are, what you believe, and about your job. Most people don't even know what a commissioner does. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Oh, yes. I am aware of it.
So we're going to take this opportunity to educate people on what a commissioner does and who you are as a commissioner.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
That sounds great to me.
Well, let's start out with you telling us for a few minutes about you and who you are and what you do and where you've been. You've been a broadcaster for many, many years right here in the Valley, so you're well known. But even though you're well known there, I still think there are things people would like to know about you. So let's go ahead and do it.
Well, as a kid, we moved all around. We lived in Sidney, Ohio, Ironton, Ohio, Louisville, Kentucky, finally settled in Zanesville, which is more or less where I grew up. And I went to Rosecrans High School, and I went to OUZ, the branch, and I specialized in broadcasting, 2 years to the main campus in Athens. And then I got a job in radio at WOMP AM in Bel Air. And I worked there that was my first introduction to the Valley, really.
Yeah.
I worked there for 4 months, and then I had worked at WHIZ TV in Zanesville. So I went over to TRF, and I said, look, I got some TV experience, and they brought me on after an audition, and I worked there for 28 years. So quite a long time.
Yeah.
Left there, called the dog races at the track for 10 years. It was called being the track announcer. And I really liked that job because it takes a certain skill, as you can imagine. And once they find out you're going to come in every day and you're going to do a good job calling the dogs, they leave you alone. You have a little booth upstairs, and you got TV, and you can bring magazines in and read. And so I kind of missed that job. Finally retired from it and thought I would stay retired, and then decided, well, I need to do something. Let's run for commissioner. So I ran and won, and now I'm coming to the end of that first term, which would be December 31st. It's a 4-year term, and trying to get a second term, and I'm on the ballot as a Republican.
Okay. So that's the story of Jerry. Now, what about being a commissioner? Can you tell us what you do as a commissioner? What are the functions, the daily kind of business you take care of?
Well, I was amazed at how complex the job really is. There's so much, and it's so varied. For example, we have a whole water and sewage system that we have to run here in Belmont County. We have a superintendent who runs it from day to day. We don't from day to day run that, but he's always coming in and give us reports, and we have to decide, is it time to, raise the rates? Do we not want to do that? And that in and of itself is a big job. We run senior services, which serves probably about 1,200 meals every day. About 900 of those are served in the centers, of which there are 11 centers. Most of the larger towns and villages have one. So we have to maintain those and negotiate rents for those. In some cases, we own the buildings. But 1,100 meals go out to the people in the little trucks. And so we've got to manage that whole thing.
How does it go out to people?
Well, they got these, they have a big kitchen at our main senior center, which is kind of out by, sort of where the fairgrounds is and all that kind of stuff. And they cook up the meals every day. Our people, our cooks, we got to hire them. And then we have drivers, many, many drivers. They go into these trucks where they stay hot, and then they deliver the meals to folks who qualify for the meals. And usually most folks give a little donation, $5 at the end of the week or a couple of dollars every day. And so there's a lot of donations that come in from that, which I never realized. We operate 2 levies to fund that. We dropped one because we felt it wasn't necessary. That didn't get a whole lot of publicity, but we watch the dollars closely, and if we don't feel that a levy is really necessary, we'll drop it. And sometimes money gets a little tight after that, but we're doing okay. And the 911 levy, for instance, we reduced that during my tenure because we just felt that there was a little more coming in than what we needed. So we dropped it by like $0.25 or something like that. And so it's just, we operate a dog pound. Ohio law states that we have to take care of dogs, whether we want to or not. And of course we want to. And so we run our dog pound. And, that's a big undertaking, a lot of employees out there. We take care of cats too, but that's by a private donation. A woman has stepped in and funds that herself.
So the cats are private donations primarily, and the dogs are county operated.
Yes. And on top of that, we have to try to find a humane agent, which is separate from the dog pound. Dog pound is for the stray dogs and all that, and trying to adopt them out. And the humane agent is for dogs that are being starved or any animal that's being abused or starved.
Right.
And so you have the whole animal aspect of the job. And really, I could go on and on. It's just, I was amazed at how much there is, and I've only touched like the surface. The sheriff runs the jail, but we're responsible for the nurses at the jail, and they offer 24/7 nurse coverage. And trying to keep nurses these days is really hard.
I'll bet.
It's super hard. The nurses come and go, and then we think, well, gee, we got to give them, offer more money, to get them to stay, and so that becomes a big job. And there's so many aspects to it, but
it's more of an administrative position where you have to administrate over all kinds of different subjects and matter, and you have to know about all these things to do that.
Yeah.
You have to learn about it anyway.
Exactly. What it's like is it's like you're running a big company, only instead of in the private sector where you would have one CEO, we have three. We have three CEOs running this company, which you'd call Belmont County. And a lot of times we're working together on something, but then we can go off and, kind of do our own thing too, and do little things that maybe the other two aren't even aware I'm doing. And, so it's an interesting job. I was also amazed at how many boards I got named to. I mean, I knew I was going to be on the Board of Commissioners, obviously.
Yeah.
But then I'm on the JB Green Team Board, which is Solid Waste Authority. And, I don't have any background in that. Now I've learned. I'm on the Land Bank, which is demolition of structures. Because a lot of these organizations mandated by state law to have a certain makeup, which is people from the public, but also like, say, the mayor of the largest city, one county commissioner. So you end up being on all kinds of boards that don't directly necessarily impact Belmont County.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
Keeps me busy.
Yeah, well, that helps people understand the scope of what you have to do, and when they go vote for the commissioner, they have a better idea of what they're voting for.
Yeah, and the odd thing is, like, with auditor, I mean, if you're the county auditor, you pretty much have to have a background in bookkeeping, auditing, stuff like that. County treasurer probably has a financial background. But with commissioner, it's just people from all walks of life, generally. Like my background is broadcasting industry, racing industry, and how does that prepare you for county commissioner? And it really doesn't, to be honest. But I think what the voters are voting on is you as a person. They want a good person who's going to get in there and be honest and fair and use good judgment. And so I think they're almost electing you more for your judgment on things than they are any particular kind of expertise.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense, and that's how you get people from the public into public office. Otherwise, how are you going to get the experience until you're there?
Yeah, and honestly, it took me about 1.5 years to wrap my arms around it. Anybody that says they can get elected to county commissioner job and just hit the ground running, I think is lying to you, because it is a job that you just have to learn.
Yeah.
You have to get to know all of these people that you're dealing with, the attorneys that you're using. And the tough thing is everybody's more or less a stranger to you at first. But then as you get to know people and personally, and you build up that mutual trust, it becomes better and better. After about a year and a half, it just kind of gels.
Yeah.
You wake up one morning, you think, okay, I think I get this job.
I got it.
I got it now.
My feet are on the ground.
Yeah, I think it's starting to,
We're going to move on a little bit now. This was about the people in Belmont County and this election cycle. What do you believe is the biggest concern people have right now? Can be about any subject. It doesn't be just about the commissioner, but if there is something about the commissioner, we want to add that in. But just what are people concerned with right now?
The state of the roads, I would say, is probably number one.
The what?
State of the roads. A lot of county roads, aren't too good, as you'll find out if you go driving on them. But when I got into office, we hadn't done a county road in 7 years. Because it was mostly the focus was on slips and things, because the weather had been so bad, all these horrible rainstorms and floods and things like that. And as the engineer always says, you've got to fix the slip, because if you don't fix the slip, you just aren't going to have a road. So not a lot of paving was really done. But now we're starting to pave. We paved County Road 4, if you're familiar with that. It kind of starts in Ferry and goes up to 250. We just today started a project where we're going to pave Winding Hill Road, which leads down into Bel Air. County Road 26, I could name quite a few, but we're finally now starting to make some inroads on paving, which is good.
Yeah.
This is so expensive to pave.
Yeah, it costs a lot of money.
Oh, they told me what it was per mile, and it's just ridiculous.
I don't think anybody understands how much it costs to pave a road.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is an enormous amount of money.
Yeah. And it's, I can only take partial credit for all that, because that's really the job of the county engineer to pave the roads. And while we fund the other offices, such as recorder, auditor, treasurer, we give them their money. We don't even give the engineer his money. He's got a separate funding source, which is gas tax and license plate fees. So he's got his own money coming in. That's not to say we can't give him money, but it's not designed to be that way.
We're going to keep going here. On current events in the news, 5 million crossings so far on the border, and so many problems, drugs are coming across the border. What is your thought on the border situation?
Well, Joe Biden has certainly handled it all wrong. He should have kept on with the Trump policies and been wise enough to know that the Trump policies were effective at the border. Instead, he made this 360-degree turn and, stopped the wall. He did just the opposite, opens it up. They say don't come, but the border's essentially open. And I never thought I'd see the day when we had an open border in this country. And they're just flooding across. And, they're bringing drugs with them. And who knows what kind of problems. They're being shipped now to some of the larger cities, and, they need to take their share, so that it alleviate the burden from Texas a little bit. And so it's just too bad, because that was, among all the things that I liked about President Trump, his handling of the border was probably number one.
Yeah, and that was a big one.
We've just lost all that.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it. They named Kamala Harris the head of the border situation, and, she hasn't done a thing.
No.
Hasn't, I don't know, very seldom even goes down there. And, I'm sure not everybody crossing over is a criminal. As I've said, you've probably got some great people whose only intention is to become an American, get to America, and find a job, raise a family. So there are those in there too. But I'm sure there's a lot of folks that we don't really want in this country who are coming over, and
there has to be.
You just, it's got to get solved. And
some of these countries are emptying their prisons and sending their criminals here.
Yeah.
And we're going to have them here doing criminal crimes to the people of America.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's sad.
Another current issue is ICE is spending $90 million a year on giving these people cell phones. What are your thoughts on giving these people cell phones at the taxpayers' expense?
Yeah, well, I don't appreciate my taxpayer dollars being used for that purpose. Yeah, I mean, if they're going to come over here and get in here, and they should come legally, of course, but if they're coming across the border illegally, I think you have to do something humanitarian-wise for them, as opposed to letting them just come over and then starve to death. But I think maybe cell phones is taken a little bit too far.
Yeah.
But you got to try to get them established somehow in America, and it's just the whole situation is bad.
Yeah, it is. So generally speaking, how would you describe the current events today in Belmont County about any subject?
Yeah. Well, in Belmont County, people were just worried about bread and butter issues, I think. You go to the grocery store now, and I know my eyes bulge out. I can't believe the price of things. The other day, I had some pumpkin pie at home, and I wanted to buy some Dream Whip. Mm-hmm. And, it's because I like Dream Whip. And it used to be, to find it for $2.49 or maybe $3, and I like it better than Cool Whip. Yeah. But that Dream Whip was like $8.
Wow.
And I'd never seen it that high before. Yeah. $7-8. And so I didn't buy it. I wasn't going to spend that kind of money on it. And I think it's just finding a way to get groceries into the house without taking up your whole paycheck. The price of gas takes up great big, under Trump, I was spending about $28, every time I filled my tank, maybe 32 or 33. But now, when I fill my tank, it's about $70.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, it really is. It makes a big difference. So I think people in Belmont County are like me. They worry about that and how they're going to make ends meet.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much where we all are. And I think that's about it. So thank you very much for joining me, Jerry. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me. Anytime.
We'll see you next time.
All right.
Today's History Upper Ohio Valley will return. See you next time.